The invitation to my brother's engagement party arrived while I was in London, attending a reception at Buckingham Palace. Heavy cream cardstock with Andrew's name embossed in gold. Andrew and Victoria request your presence at their engagement celebration. I was holding champagne and making conversation with a Danish duchess when my phone buzzed with the photo from my assistant. Family thing? The duchess asked, noticing my expression. My brother's getting engaged. Big party in Connecticut next month. How lovely. Will you go? Apparently not. My mother just texted that they're keeping it intimate. Family only. She raised an eyebrow. But you are family. Complicated family. What I didn't tell her, what I rarely told anyone, was that my family had no idea about my life in London. They knew I'd moved to England after graduate school. They knew I worked for some charity organization. They knew I traveled frequently for work. They didn't know I'd spent the last 8 years working for the Royal Foundation. They didn't know I'd been appointed Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire last year for my work in international development. They didn't know that I advised members of the royal family on their charitable initiatives. They didn't know because they'd never asked. My mother called the next evening for her in Connecticut. Isabel, darling, I wanted to explain about the party. Victoria's family is very prominent in New York society. Her father knows governors, senators, Fortune 500 CEOs. The guest list is extremely curated. I understand. Do you? Because this is important for Andrew's career. He's up for partner at his firm and Victoria's connections could make the difference. We need to make the right impression. And I'd make the wrong impression? Pause. You know how these people are. They care about pedigree, status, accomplishments. You work for a charity. They might not understand that you're not just, well, poor. I wouldn't put it that way. But these are people who summer in the Hamptons and winter in Palm Beach. They sit on museum boards and hospital foundations. They might make assumptions about charity work that could reflect poorly on Andrew. I looked out my window at the Thames at the Houses of Parliament in the distance. Of course. I wouldn't want to embarrass anyone. I knew you'd understand. You've always been the practical one. Besides, you're so busy with your travel schedule. This way you don't have to make the trip. After she hung up, I sat in my Belgravia flat, the one owned by the Royal Foundation, provided as part of my compensation package, and called my chief of staff. Margaret, I need you to clear my schedule for the last weekend of next month. The Connecticut trip? Yes. And contact the palace. I need to speak with the Queen's private secretary about a small favor. The engagement party was 3 weeks away. I spent the time in meetings across Europe, advising Princess Anne on her charity work in Africa, consulting with Prince William on environmental initiatives, organizing a major fundraising gala in Monaco that raised £30 million. I also made arrangements for a very specific travel plan. The day before the party, my mother texted, "Just to confirm, you're not coming, correct? Victoria's family is arriving tomorrow and we need to coordinate arrivals." I replied, "I'll be there. Looking forward to meeting Victoria's family." The response came immediately, "Isabel, we discussed this. This event isn't appropriate. I'm family, Mom. I'll be there." 20 minutes later, Andrew called. "Bella, what are you doing? Mom said you're insisting on coming." "I'm coming to your engagement party." "Is that a problem?" "It's just, Victoria's family is very particular. Her father runs a private equity firm. Her mother sits on the board of the Met. These are serious people with serious connections. And I'm not serious? You work for a charity in London. That's great, really, but these people won't understand. They'll think you're some kind of activist or something. It'll be awkward. I'll try not to embarrass you. Bella, I'm asking you as my brother. Please don't come. This is too important. See you Saturday, Andrew." I hung up and texted Margaret, "Confirm all arrangements. Arrival time 4 p.m. Full protocol." Saturday afternoon, I landed at Westchester County Airport at 3:30 p.m. Not on a commercial flight, on an RAF Voyager that had been heading to Washington for diplomatic meetings. The pilot had agreed to a slight detour as a courtesy. The aircraft touched down and taxied to the private terminal where 3 Range Rovers waited, British flags mounted on the hoods. My security detail, provided by the Metropolitan Police's Royalty Protection Unit, emerged first, followed by Lord Chamberlain's representative, A man named Sir Edmund Pierce who'd insisted on accompanying me. "Ready, Dame Isabel?" he asked, straightening his morning coat. "As I'll ever be." We arrived at my parents' estate at 3:50 p.m. The party was in full swing. White tents on the lawn, string quartet playing, about 200 guests in cocktail attire. Caterers moved through the crowd with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Very elegant. Very exclusive. Very much my family trying to impress Victoria's wealthy relatives. The Range Rovers pulled up to the circular driveway. My security detail exited first, followed by Sir Edmund, then me. I dressed carefully. Navy dress and jacket, understated but elegant. The Dame Commander insignia pinned discreetly to my lapel. My hair in a neat chignon. I looked like I belonged at a royal function. Because I did. My mother appeared at the front door, face going pale as she saw the vehicles and security detail. "Isabel? Why are there?" "Hello, Mother. This is Sir Edmund Pierce, representing the Lord Chamberlain's office. We're here for Andrew's engagement celebration." Sir Edmund stepped forward, impeccably polite. "Mrs. Whitmore, a pleasure. Her Majesty sends her congratulations to your son on his engagement. Dame Isabel speaks so highly of her family." My mother's mouth opened and closed. No sound emerged. "Dame Isabel?" My father's voice came from behind her. He stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "Shall we join the party?" I asked brightly. We walked through the house to the back terrace where guests mingled. Conversations died as people noticed the security detail, the official-looking man in the morning coat, the small procession moving through their midst. I spotted Andrew immediately, standing with a beautiful dark-haired woman, Victoria, and an older couple who had to be her parents. They were surrounded by well-dressed people holding champagne, everyone laughing at something Victoria's father had said. Andrew saw me and went rigid. Victoria looked confused. Her parents, particularly her father, were staring at Sir Edmund with growing recognition. "Andrew." I crossed the terrace and hugged my brother. He stood frozen in my embrace. "Congratulations. You must be Victoria." Yes. Victoria looked at the security detail stationed around the terrace perimeter. "Isabel. So nice to finally meet you. Your parents." Victoria's father stepped forward, face carefully neutral. "Charles Hartford. This is my wife, Patricia. And you're Andrew's sister from London. Dame Isabel Whitmore, yes. I work with the Royal Foundation." I gestured to Sir Edmund. "This is Sir Edmund Pierce, representing the Lord Chamberlain's office." Charles Hartford's eyes widened. "The Lord Chamberlain? As in Buckingham Palace, yes. Sir Edmund was kind enough to accompany me. Her Majesty wanted to send formal congratulations to Andrew and Victoria." The silence on the terrace was absolute. Andrew looked like he might faint. "Bella, what? Her Majesty?" "Queen Elizabeth," Sir Edmund clarified smoothly. "Dame Isabel works closely with several members of the royal family. When she mentioned her brother's engagement, Her Majesty thought it appropriate to send official felicitations." He produced an envelope from his jacket, cream paper with the royal seal embossed in gold. A letter of congratulations from Her Majesty to the happy couple. Victoria's hand shook as she took it. "The Queen sent a letter? To us?" "At Dame Isabel's request. Her Majesty is quite fond of Dame Isabel. They've worked together on numerous initiatives." My mother had materialized at my elbow, face white. "Isabel, I don't understand, Dame." "The Queen. I was appointed Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire last year. For my work in international development. Didn't I mention that? You said you worked for a charity." "I do. The Royal Foundation. I'm Senior Director of International Programs. I advise members of the royal family on their charitable work." I smiled. Did I not explain that clearly? I thought I had. "You said charity work," my father said faintly. "We thought you meant. You thought I was a volunteer coordinator or fundraising assistant." I kept my tone pleasant. "I understand. It's an easy mistake to make if you don't ask follow-up questions." Charles Hartford was studying me with new interest. "Dame Commander is quite an honor. What exactly qualified you for that distinction?" I restructured the Foundation's international development programs, raising over £200 million for initiatives across 40 countries. I also coordinated the royal family's response to several humanitarian crises. The Queen felt it merited recognition. You work directly with the Queen? Patricia Hartford's voice had risen an octave. And Princess and Prince William, Prince Harry depends on the initiative. Last month I was at Balmoral advising on environmental programs. Next week I'm accompanying Princess Anne to Kenya for a children's health initiative. Victoria was still holding the letter, looking dazed. You know Princess Anne? We work together frequently. She's brilliant on international development. Very hands-on, no patience for bureaucracy. I glanced at Andrew. I've tried to tell you about my work, but you always seemed busy when I called. I understand your law practice keeps you occupied. Andrew's face had progressed through several colors. You said you worked for a charity. You never mentioned the royal family. I mentioned working at the palace several times. Christmas 2 years ago I talked about meeting Princess Anne. You asked if I was dating anyone. Last Thanksgiving I mentioned advising on the Queen's charitable priorities. Dad changed the subject to your partnership track. At Easter I brought up the Dame Commander appointment. Mom asked about the weather in London. Each sentence landed like a stone in still water. Charles Hartford cleared his throat. Mr. Whitmore, you didn't mention your daughter worked at such a high level. The Royal Foundation is one of the most prestigious charitable organizations in the world. My father opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Sir Edmund consulted his watch. Dame Isabel, I'm afraid we're expected at the British Embassy in Washington by 7. Ambassador Thompson is hosting a reception for visiting dignitaries. Of course. I turned to Andrew and Victoria. Congratulations again. I'm sorry I can't stay longer, but duty calls. The letter contains an invitation to a reception at St. James's Palace next time you're in London. Her Majesty thought you might enjoy it. Victoria clutched the letter like it was made of gold. A reception? At the palace. Small gathering, about 50 people. Very informal by royal standards. Just drinks and conversation with a few family members. I kissed Andrew's cheek. I'm proud of you, little brother. Victoria seems wonderful. As I turned to leave, my mother grabbed my arm. Isabel, wait. Please. We need to talk. About what? About how you excluded me from today because you were ashamed of my charity work. About how you assumed I wasn't impressive enough for Victoria's family. I gently removed her hand. It's fine, Mom. I understand. You were trying to protect Andrew's image. We didn't know, she whispered. If we'd known. You would have invited me? Because I'm useful now? Because I have royal connections that could help Andrew's career. I shook my head. That's exactly why I didn't tell you. I wanted to know if you valued me for who I am, not what I could do for you. That's not fair. Isn't it? You told me to stay away from the important guest. Turns out I am an important guest. Just not in the way you expected. Sir Edmund was waiting by the Range Rovers. My security detail had already cleared a path. As I walked across the lawn, I heard the whispers erupting behind me. The Queen sent a letter. Works at Buckingham Palace. Dame Commander. Advises Princess Anne. In the car, Sir Edmund smiled. That was rather theatrical. Too much. Not at all. Though I suspect your family will be calling incessantly. Let them call. We drove to the embassy in silence. My phone buzzed constantly. Texts from Andrew, my parents, even Victoria's mother. All variations of please call, and we had no idea, and we need to understand. At the embassy reception I made small talk with diplomats and dignitaries. Discussed policy initiatives. Accepted congratulations on recent fundraising successes. Did my job. The job my family had been too embarrassed to let me discuss. I flew back to London Sunday evening. Monday morning I had a meeting with Princess Anne about the Kenya trip. Tuesday a planning session for the next major gala. Wednesday a call with the UN about a collaborative initiative. My family called 47 times that week. I didn't answer. Maybe someday I'd forgive them for being ashamed of work that the Queen of England had honored. For excluding me because they couldn't see past their own narrow definition of success. But not today. Today I had a princess to advise, a foundation to run, and a legacy to build. A legacy that didn't need my family's approval. Because the Queen of England had already given me hers. And that was worth more than 1,000 engagement parties at my parents' estate. The letter from Andrew arrived 2 weeks later, forwarded to my office at Kensington Palace. Bella, I've been a terrible brother. I let mom and dad convince me you weren't successful enough to attend my engagement party. The irony is that you're more successful than anyone in that room. Victoria's father hasn't stopped talking about your work. He wants an introduction to your foundation contacts. Mom cries every time someone asks about the daughter who works for the queen. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I see you now. Really see you. And I'm sorry it took a royal title for me to understand what you'd built. I folded the letter and placed it in my desk drawer. Maybe next month I'd reply. Or maybe I'd wait until he learned that sorry wasn't enough.